After teasing fans for what seemed like an eternity and milking this to no end, the Houston Outlaws have officially announced that Bernar will be joining them for the playoffs. Knowing Fearless and what he specializes in, it obviously makes a lot of sense to be making an emergency pickup like this in a Zarya-centric meta to help boost your chances of winning it all. With this move, along with the Who Are You pickup to the Mayhem, there's been a lot of controversy and discussion in the community on if this should even be allowed, and naturally so. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of cutoff window with signing players this season. It almost feels like an unfair advantage to give teams an extra leverage when we're already this late into the season to pick up players when they probably should not be able to. But here we are, rules are rules, well I guess the lack thereof rules, so they can do whatever the heck they want, and there's nothing we can do but sit back and watch. But luckily for Houston fans, it's a good thing that this rule, or lack thereof, is in place, because now it boosts their chances of potentially winning a championship. Fearless is a very important part of this team, but obviously he's just not a Zarya player. He's a very quick learner, he's good at adapting, but learning Zarya that fast might be just too much of an ask for him, so naturally so they move to someone who has experience in the role, who also has been in the Overwatch League for multiple seasons. Bernar is a good veteran pickup to make on a dime like this. If you're unfamiliar with Bernar, he's been in the Overwatch League in 3 different seasons, including 2 on the Hangzhou Spark recently, and he's always been a rather respectable player. Not always the best, not someone you always remember by name, but certainly never the worst tank player out there, and going to this Houston team means that he's going to have the best help he's ever had in his career by far. He's never played for a team this loaded since Fusion University, and that was ages ago. Bernar with this kind of help could actually see him unleash his true potential on the league. It's been a while since he's played professionally, since the Spark released him last November, but he does have the talent and the skill. We know that for a fact, based off of some of the flashes he's shown throughout his career, and if they give him a backline of this caliber, he just might do some things that Fusion University fans thought that he'd do in the league many, many years ago. He fits the needs on a very short-term basis, exactly what the Outlaws were looking for, just as they drew it up. A natural off tank who is pretty decent at Zarya. I wouldn't say that it's his #1 most well-known hero, but he can play her just fine, and compared to some of these other tanks, that just might get the job done. With this move maybe does come some drawbacks and some concerns though. I think on one hand, while you do have a Zarya player now, you are missing out on Fearless, who has been such a focal point of the Outlaws and many other championship caliber teams of the past. Without that leadership, without his play, it's always going to feel like something is missing. But again, if he struggles on Zarya, then why play him? Whether or not it's going to hurt you is irrelevant. If he's in there, you're probably not going to do much better anyway. But also, in a lot of people's eyes, Bernar isn't exactly some kind of X factor that's going to be this game-changing, life-saving signing. Yeah, he's fine, he's decent, but he's not going to be the #1 player. It is highly unlikely he will be the most dominant tank in these playoffs, especially with how long it's been since he's played in the league. Can he pull his weight against a Hanbin, a Smurf, a someone, etc.? That's going to be the real question on if the Outlaws truly are one of the most well-rounded teams in this entire bracket. However, I think that if he can just be okay, that Outlaws fans shouldn't have that much to worry about. Maybe it could be some kind of deciding factor in like the Final Four or in the Grand Finals if they get there, heaven forbid. But in the meantime, in general, against most of the competition, I'm not all that concerned about Bernar being the potential starting tank player. Again, he's a smart guy, he's shown he can be serviceable, and if he can just stay out of the team's way and play decently and make right choices, the rest of the roster should handle the rest, at least on paper, if the meta is going to be what everyone's saying it will be. If you have Pelican on a Genji, Happy on a Sojourn, Shu on Baptiste, you're going to have a lot of carry potential, and you just need the other guys to play well enough and enable them, and in this scenario, I think the Outlaws have that. If the tank play is not detrimental to this team, I do truly believe they will be okay. It'll be interesting to see how far they can get in the end, but I'd still be confident if I was an Outlaws fan. I'd still feel excited. It goes to show that they care and that they knew that Fearless would not be the answer in this particular meta. They're trying everything in their power to maintain some kind of leg up, and you have to respect the grind, even if the ruling on that is a little sus. I, for one, am still very excited about the Outlaws this postseason, and I'm excited to see Bernar on this Outlaws team as well. I always felt like he was held back by some of his teams in the past, or he just wasn't in the right situation. His first year in the league was on a crap London team, and then he played on the Spark for a bit, and they were always just okay, but now he finally gets his time in the spotlight and a chance to capitalize on all of the upside that people were raving about like 4+ years ago. Finally, he is freed from the shackles of being on mediocre teams or not being in demand thanks to his hero pool. Now is his time to shine on one of the best teams in the league. He finally gets to be a starter on a team that deserves his talent, or at least I hope. Again, though, there's zero guarantees. The talent is there, the Outlaws are also a really good team, but when there's changes like this, sometimes it can completely flip the dynamic of your team, and you end up folding completely. This type of meta is going to have a very different playstyle compared to what the Outlaws like to run, and again, they're missing one of their leaders in Fearless. Changing any kind of dynamic or aspect of your team can always be a risk, along with the idea of potentially not being as comfortable in a new meta, so I'd love to see how the Outlaws adjust and what the response is going to be. They're one of the favorites to win this all, and I'm hoping that it can stay that way. This roster has a lot of potential. Let's just pray that the Bernar signing is enough to keep it that way. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Outlaws signing Bernar. Do you think it increases their chances? Do you not feel as good about them now? Let me know all of your thoughts. And of course, if you enjoyed the video and you want to stay up to date with all of the most recent Overwatch League headlines and news heading into the playoffs, give this video a big fat thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And until the next one, I'm out. Peace.